Evening. Welcome. We are back. Finally, the international break's gone. Oh my God, it's the worst period in any season, every season, the international break. But finally, it's gone. We're back with another away days. Slightly different cast tonight. Chris unfortunately can't make it, so we've substituted Martin in. More than able substitute, and we're going to talk the big talk. The talk that everyone's talking about, not just Newcastle United, but all of the Premier League clubs. The big game on Sunday, Newcastle United against Tottenham. So, Mark, how has your week been? Because it's been exactly 1 week, as you mentioned just before we went on air, since the big change in the future of our football club. How are you feeling in this week so far?
Tonight is good because at this point last week I wasn't sober, so that's a slight change from last week. But yeah, it's good. It's still slightly surreal. I think the week has been good. I have enjoyed taking the piss out of the Liverpool and Leeds fans who are in my workplace. I have enjoyed walking around in multiple Newcastle shirts and jackets and smiling most of the week. And calling most other clubs wankers. So yeah, I've had a pretty good week, mate, to be honest. Work is crazy, but yeah, looking forward to tonight. Don't normally do these. So thanks for the invite. Yeah, looking forward to chatting Spurs. We've got a fairly decent record against them, and looking forward to talking to Fawad. Interesting to hear his view on Harry Kane, and does he need a couple of bob to pay his stadium off? So yeah, should be interesting.
Well, we'll get him in shortly, but yeah, you're right. It's been a really, really strange week. Obviously, still feels a little bit surreal. I did mention it on one of our Loaded Mag shows that I don't think it's going to be until sort of Sunday when we see the new owners in a full capacity stadium. Hopefully we see a couple of old legends that are now allowed back into the stadium, the likes of Keegan and Shearer. I know Shearer can't make it, but the likes of Keegan, hopefully we get to see him in. I don't think until that point it will seem real until then. But absolutely buzzing. We have had a little bit of stick. So you're right in throwing it back that way, Martin. You know, there are a few fans that have given some stick. There are a few fans that have been really positive and, you know, talking about how, you know, they feel we deserve it. And look, all Newcastle fans will all say that we deserve it. We know what we've been through under Mike Ashley. We know other clubs in the lower parts of the tier of English football have suffered more, but we can only talk about our experiences as Newcastle fans. And it's been a hell of a horrible 14 years, and it's finally over. But you're right.
It's a great feeling.
It's an amazing feeling. But you're absolutely right in what you said, Mark. You know, it's about the game on Sunday. This is a massive game. I think probably for both clubs, and we'll bring Fawad in very, very shortly to talk about that. But we need a win. We do
need a win.
It's really desperate for a win. You know, it's all well and good talking about the takeover and this new era starting, but we have to win games. We've not won it at all this season. I mean,
nope, not from 7.
Exactly. And you know, we'll talk about Mr. Bruce and the fact that he's still at the club. All parts of the discussion. But look, let's get right into it now.
Yeah, let's crack on.
Fantastic guest waiting in the green room. Let's bring him in. Welcome in, Fawad. How you doing?
What's going on, boys? Thanks for having me on, man. Sorry for the lateness.
No worries, man.
No worries at all. Well, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it as always. You know, we've had a number of really good chats over the time, whether it was with Clinton and other fixtures down there, well, the last year or so, last 18 months. So it wouldn't have been right without having you on to talk this fixture. And you know what? We've just been saying it's a big fixture, you know, for us in particular. How are you feeling from a Tottenham point of view about this game on Sunday? Like, how big is it for you guys?
Honestly, it's massive considering kind of how results have gone for us over the last couple of weeks. I think a lot of kind of negative results off the back of the first 3 wins that kind of, I would say, almost papered over the cracks. But I feel like this is a real kind of opportunity for, you know, the international break is always kind of a respite moment for every team. Kind of whether you've been on good form, bad form, it can go exactly the other way. So we've got to kind of use this moment with Newcastle having the big news of the takeover, deflate that bubble, give him the realization of you are second from bottom. You will be fighting in the relegation zone if this squad does not significantly improve. And it's all well and good for the long term that happening. But right here, right now, I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for us to deliver that reality check. And I'm just looking at kind of interestingly what Martin said at the start, like Kane. He's someone who I'm really looking at in this game because he's someone who, even for England, doesn't seem like he's really that interested in football at the moment. Like performances just aren't there at the minute. So I feel like Newcastle, he's scored a couple of goals here and there in this fixture. So I'm like, you know what? I'm hoping he can kind of use this as an opportunity to come alive and say, you know what? All right, I've had my little kind of moment to throw my tantrum, get my headspace right. This is now going to be the moment where I kind of kickstart my season. So it's really kind of a big moment for him and for the team, I would say, to kind of really kick back into gear.
No, it's a great point. And look, whenever we have this fixture, as you've mentioned, Harry Kane is always the difference maker. He loves, unfortunately, he loves a goal against us. So it doesn't matter what form he's in, he always seems to find the back of the net. But, you know, you touched on Harry Kane. That was a point that we were going to talk about. And I know Martin mentioned it earlier, but what are your feelings around everything that's happened over the summer? Like, obviously, you know, he's gone to the Euros with Man City in his mind. He's then come back from the Euros. He's not turned up for training. There was a whole drama about all of that from the outside looking in seemed like it affected your season. But you guys started well. You had a great August, a really bad September, and then we're in October now. I think you got a win just before the international break against Villa. But Harry Kane hasn't performed in any of that, as you've just mentioned. Like, what are your feelings around everything that's unfolded during this summer?
For me, it's I'm as a Spurs fan, I don't think any Spurs fan can be angry at Harry Kane and how the situation has kind of been, because he's been, let's be honest, one of our greatest players of all time, and in recent time, been arguably our most important player. So for me, it's kind of with what he's done in his career as well, being up there with one of the best strikers in the world. Like last season, let's not forget, this is a man who was top goal scorer and top assister in the league. We haven't seen that before. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a rare breed of player that we've actually produced from our academy. And he's now reached a certain level in the game. He wants to achieve silverware. He doesn't see that happening at Spurs. He's been close to league title races. He's been to Carabao Cup finals, FA Cup semi-finals, a Champions League final, and he's felt at every hurdle, and he's seen the board is not backing when the managers are in place, whether it's a Pochettino who lays the foundations, whether it's the big name Jose. So he's thinking to himself, what am I here for? If I'm here one of the best in the world, and I see the likes of Lewandowski, I'm seeing everybody collecting trophies around me, Benzema, but I'm not. What am I doing here? So I don't blame him for kind of wanting to leave, and even in the manner that he did, where he didn't turn up for training. Listen, you look at the club, how they were dealing with the managerial situation just a month or two before that. You interviewed about 10 to 15 managers before you ended up settling on Nuno. And now it's like, all right, you went from the Tottenham way and wanting attacking football to now we'll settle for Nuno's defensive style of play and we'll build from this. So imagine being Harry Kane in that situation, looking at him from in that and thinking, what is the direction of this club? That's why I'm not even angry at when I see Ndombele requesting a transfer. Even he must be looking at this thinking, I could probably reach my full potential in a much better situation. Look what he's been surrounded by in midfield. So, I mean, it's been a messy situation. And you said the start of the season, we started well. Honestly, you look at it, we caught City on an off day where a lot of their players are coming back from international break. It's really the first game of the season. No one's really found their rhythm. And then we've just been defensively solid. I think the new manager bounce, everyone says, cool, it happens. The second game against Wolves, you look at it, Wolves cracked through on us many times, and they should have scored, and they were just missing a bunch of chances. Dele Alli dived for a penalty, and we got lucky that day. The next game, you look at it, Watford, we got absolutely peppered, same way. We somehow pulled 1-0 victories in all of them, and I always kept looking at it, and I said, I didn't even do any reaction videos on my channel, because I said, I'm not getting wrapped up in the moment. I said, I know this club. The true form will come to light. Palace comes through. People say the red card, but they were peppering us even before that. And then it just Chelsea comes in, Arsenal comes in. So it's like it's really been a messy situation for a long time. And I don't blame Harry Kane for his headspace. I don't blame him for what it is. I just hope he's just within himself professional enough, as he's shown throughout his career, and is quality enough to kind of come through this and at least help us to get back in the European picture at least.
No, great points. Interestingly enough, I didn't realise about the situation in Dembele. I didn't realise he put. Is that official then? He had to put a transfer request in.
Yeah. Towards I think the last couple of days of the window, he just kind of, well, it was. I don't think it was an official request, but it was like can you look for me a transfer elsewhere if possible type of thing. And I think
Agent
Spurs
chat.
tried to look, but nobody was willing to pay the 200 grand that he's worth, or we're not going to recoup anywhere near the money, because let's be honest, he hasn't shown that he's worth 65 million, has he?
No,
I think the thing for me, watching Spurs, I would say probably from other than Newcastle, Spurs are probably a team that I really like to watch, because the football has always been attacking. Now, obviously, I'm kind of 52 this year, and I go back to the days of Spurs when I would have watched them with my dad on the TV, and it was, Hoddle, Archibald, Steve Perryman, good players. And then as it moved up, then you had, Clive Allen, Gary Lineker. Clive Allen, I remember being one of the first players ever to score 40 in a season or something like that. And I've always enjoyed watching that free-flowing football. But over the last couple of seasons, me and Pete were talking about this. So I don't know, what your view is on it, but I just think defensively Spurs have been all over the place in the last 2-3 seasons. I think between kind of the back end of Poch into Mourinho, now into Nuno, I don't think they've ever really known what their actual first 11 is. I'm not in favour of Eric Dyer playing at the back. I don't think it suits him. I don't think it's something that suits Spurs. So I think the Harry Kane is an interesting one for me, because I've always kind of been of the mantra that, like, class is permanent, form is temporary. So last season he kind of came good, but I just worry that nobody seems to get, over the last 2-3 seasons, nobody has really got Spurs defense right. And I think while you have the likes of Son and you have Kane, and you've got other players that can get you goals, and you will score goals in a weird way, not as shit as we are, but like you kind of have the same leaky defense. So that's why I'm kind of looking forward to Sunday's game, because we are shit, but I think we'll cause your back four or back five problems, because if we play right, now if Spurs do the right thing and just put 3 people on ASM, then we're screwed like we normally are every game. But I think we've got enough to trouble Spurs, and in those games that we've had, I was looking back at some of the games over the last 3-4 years, there's never a 0-0. So there's going to be goals at some point on Sunday. So what do you think needs to? What do you think needs to be done to fix up Spurs' leaky defense? Because it doesn't. It seems to me that's one of the real problems. I don't think it's further up the pitch. But I'm just interested. There's me clan coming in. Beckenberger King. I'm getting wrong. So what do you think needs to be done to fix it up, mate?
To be honest, I couldn't agree more. I think you hit the nail on the head there with our defense. It's been the main source of our issue, and kind of Poch's bread and butter. He had back-to-back seasons where he had the best defensive record, and you look at who that back line was made out of. It was Kyle Walker, Danny Rose, who were arguably two of the best fullbacks at the time, getting up and down and defensively. Then you had Alderweireld and Vertonghen, who were forming an international and national partnership. Absolute top quality, and you were just thinking this is going to be kind of the foundations that we have long term. Lo and behold, he doesn't get replaced properly, in my opinion, is what happens. We decided to go for the cheap option with Kieran Trippier at the time, who had just gotten relegated with Burnley. Said, all right, come and make the step up to, at the time, we're trying to be a contending Premier League club. We just lost the title to Leicester. So you've just sold Kyle Walker for 50 million and your replacement is a relegated right back. So then Trippier is good. I'm not going to lie to you. He does a job going forward, but then coming back, there was always issues defensively. He departs. Serge Aurier comes in. Absolute disaster. He gets dropped. Doherty comes in, absolute disaster. So for me, it's the recruitment in some aspects for me has been an absolute disaster. Then you look at the replacements of Vertonghen. He has not been replaced either. Like we tried to sign Davinson Sanchez, which is, I'm not even going to lie, arguably the biggest flop in the last 20 years that we've ever spent. 42 million. Wow. 42 million at the time. And I'm not going to lie to you, at the time, you're thinking coming back off a Europa League final with Ajax, very solid, very competent. I think 18 or 19, you're thinking big potential. But how many errors have we seen over the years where you're just like, do you know what? This guy's more of a liability than an actual someone you can build a defense around. Now, I do think Romero coming in this summer is a massive gain. Massive kind of bedrock that you can build a defense around. And he's someone at Atlanta, massive season last year, got lots of plaudits and awards, then went on to the summer to win the Copa America, playing a big part for Argentina as well. And in these early couple of games as well, he's done well. I've been very, very impressed with him. So he's given me a little bit of comfort for the future. I think Reguilon last season at left back, we replaced Danny Rose appropriately. But when you're not replacing those positions, and another one as well is, in front of that incredible defense, I was saying, we also had Wanyama and Dembele, which are two absolute animals when you think of Premier League central midfielders. They can offer you a lot going forward, but in front of the protection they give you, and once they'd left, we were trying Winks, Sissoko, Eric Dyer. Like the names are Lo Celso. It's awful what we've been trying in there. So for now to finally get some actual protection with Skip and Højbjerg, I think that's been one added little bit of an improvement this season as well. So I'm hoping Skip being out there, academy can long-term be there. And I think Højbjerg was a massive signing last year and has kind of improved this year, going box to box, which is what he was doing with Denmark in the season. But definitely there's room for improvement, but I have seen small improvements with the players we've signed as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well, I think you've probably got it a bit in Højbjerg, but I think the other thing, and I think Newcastle are missing exactly the same thing, which is somebody that can sit in front of that 4 or 5 that's a ball breaker, that can put a boot in, break up play just a 3, 5, 8 yard pass. Doesn't have to be a glory ball. Like in our case for Newcastle, for me it will be, we miss a David Batty type player that is an aggressive little terrier that puts a boot in, breaks up a ball, just pings it left, right, centre, moves it forward. And I think when I look at both teams, I think we're both missing that kind of chunk of the spine. You know, for us, we need probably a really good, you know, and Pete, we've spoken about it loads on Load of Mag. We need a really good central defender that's got pace, agility, not just good in the air, has got mobility, because we don't have that in Fernandes or Lascelles. We don't have a ball breaker. We're okay midfield wise. Only, you know, Bruce doesn't play Fraser and Wilson together, which fucking baffles me. But that top half, we've got plenty that can do damage. But the biggest concern for me, even with the takeover, is that back 4, 5 and a ball breaker to just break that play and make easy, simple passes to break up the play and start the play the other way. I think we're missing it big time, and I think Spurs are a little bit like that.
Defense is always the foundation as well. I say any impressive team you look at, like for any great team throughout the years, whether it's the Real Madrid winning the Champions Leagues, the Barcelona, even the tiki-takas, you look at their back lines, you will still see fully competent Jose, his teams throughout the years. Like Alex Ferguson, let's not get it twisted. People always think these managers were all attacking, but defensively, you've got to get the foundations right first. And if you can score all the goals you want. If you're leaky at the back, you'll see it. Trust me. And Liverpool were a little bit example of that, of under Brendan Rodgers when they were with the SAS. They almost had it, but leaky defense got them in the end. The Palace 3-3 draws and things like that, where you're just getting into these gunslinging contests that are unnecessary. But then under Klopp, when he initially came, it was all gung-ho. But eventually, when they got the Van Dijk, when they got Alisson, when they got Fabinho, when they got Robertson, they put the pieces in place. You built the foundation. Everything else going forward was working. Now Salah and Mane can focus on doing whatever they want. All the machines are ticking.
It is, and it allows players to be able to properly express themselves. And this goes back to the point from our point of view, from the Newcastle point of view. You know, we talk about ASM and being allowed off the chain. He's playing as a central striker. He probably will be again today, again on Sunday. And it's like, you know, he needs to know that the guys at the back are going to be able to do the job, that are going to keep themselves solid, that allows him to go and play his football, because he's always going to play. He plays on the edge anyway, but he's always going to play at 90% because always going to be worried about, if I lose the ball, are we going to get hit the other way? So there's always that in the back of his mind. But if you're playing with a solid back line, it allows those players to go on and just express themselves. You talked about, you know, the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson and Man United, like Cristiano Ronaldo's, the Tevez's, the Rooney's. They were able to express themselves because they know they had Vidic and Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah, exactly.
Locking things up, and it goes back to the point, you know, with Tottenham, they don't have that. They have that in Christian Romero, because I think he's a talented young player. I think he's only 24, so he's still got bags of potential still to grow in the game. Maybe just need someone solid in there just to play alongside him to solidify that defense. But just one thing before we move on to both talk about both teams and key players. I was going to ask you, because I've been thinking about this for a while, about your goalkeeping situation. So you've got Hugo Lloris in goal, and he's been there for a long time now. What are your opinions, and what are the opinions of Tottenham fans with regards to Hugo Lloris? Because I'll tell you mine beforehand. Mm-hmm. I think personally, and this might sound harsh, I think personally, you probably as a club should have maybe sold him a few years ago. I don't think I'm seeing the same type of Hugo Lloris that we saw in the Pochettino, and the same effect that he has on the game and his influence. I may be wrong. That's just my observation on the things that I see from him. What about you? What's your opinion of Hugo Lloris at this moment in time?
I'm actually of one of the few kind of Spurs fans that are of the same mindset of you. I've always said we should have been planning for kind of Lloris's departure. Maybe I wouldn't have said a few years ago, but I said maybe this summer just gone. It should have been kind of the changeover, because last season and the last 2 seasons in particular, I felt like there have been kind of good 2-month spells where you see these massive dips in form. And I'm just like, just at that top level, you're almost costing us in games. And I just felt like I remember the Liverpool games last year, the Palace game, the City game. There was just moments where I just thought near post, you're getting beaten far too easy. But one thing I will say is there have been many moments as well where that defense has let him down and he has got us out of jail. So he does have those kind of, he is capable of those kind of moments as well. So when you consider as well what he's given us over the longevity of what he's been at the club now, 10 years, he's given us maybe 8 great years, I would say, and 2 shaky years, you could say. I'll take that. 8 out of 10. I think most people will take that, especially when you consider we got him for 15 million or whatever. And at the time was a top prospect keeper. I was actually shocked he ended up signing for us, because I thought he could easily be playing for a Madrid or someone like that. But he ended up signing for us and we got what we got. For me, I think Galini is not the long-term solution for sure. Nah. He's just a kind of a stopgap 2-year loan backup. Maybe we can kind of see how this kind of work experience goes, because Atlanta had him as a starting lineup goalkeeper last year, a Champions League club who all of a sudden wants to get rid of their starting lineup keeper on a 2-year loan. It just makes no sense, especially when you consider he's kind of young as well. You're just thinking, it looks a bit iffy there. So I don't know. I said Mike Maignan, who went to AC Milan, would have been a good option. And another one, Andre Onana, I know is sitting out a ban at the minute, but his contract is running down. And I'm just kind of like, there's a few of these goalkeepers who are around this kind of like 24 to 28 bracket, where if you get them, because goalkeepers, you want an ideal one, 5-10 years at best. So it's like, get them at this kind of prime age. So it's going to be a funny one to watch over the next couple of years for sure.
I'm not going to lie that Onana at Ajax, he is on a suspension, but if I'm right in thinking, his contract at Ajax runs out this summer. If I'm right in thinking that, I've got to be honest, you guys are looking at him, but I'd love it if he came to us as well.
You see it. Everyone else starts licking their lips when they hear there's only 6 months left on the deal. You're like, hold on, why not? Because all of them becomes this a battle of wages, and for you lot at the minute, that ain't no problem. That ain't no problem.
Look, you've segued really, really nicely into my next point, because we've been doing nothing but talking about the takeover. We are basking in it. We're enjoying it. We've not been able to enjoy much in this last 14 years, so we've been really enjoying this last 7 days as Newcastle United fans. But from an outside point of view, from a Tottenham perspective, obviously, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but from our point of view, we're aware that Tottenham played a big part in trying to stop the takeover going through, in particular Daniel Levy, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what are your opinions on our takeover in the way in which it's happened, and what do you see from us moving forward?
Like, from the takeover, from a Spurs perspective, I'll say it's troubling, because it's just another club basically that's just loading up to. We still haven't even fulfilled our kind of silverware quest, if you like, or our silverware thirst. And it looks like another club has basically just geared up to show, you know what, we're going to be more ambitious and we're going to show you how it's done better and more financially, if that makes sense. So it's kind of worrying in that sense. From a Newcastle aspect, you kind of have to look at it like you couldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. Like, people have always said Newcastle's a sleeping giant. It's got massive history. The stadium's huge. The fan base is always like a rocking fan base. So it's one of those it's kind of primed waiting to happen. My issue is I'm thinking, why couldn't these guys just look at Spurs and think, hold on, we've got a club in London with a new shiny stadium as well. NFL deal struck already. Boom, let's go and buy them. So I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest. I'm actually very jealous, because we've obviously got very wealthy owners as well, but they just refuse not to spend the money, not to be ambitious. And there's nothing worse, because you have previously had that with Mike Ashley, where an owner, their wealth, what they're capable of doing if they really cared for the club. But because they're just in it for profit, or they're in it for image or some kind of PR gain, they won't push the club to the absolute limits it takes to succeed. And I just feel like under Levy, no matter what, we're not going to get to where we need to get to. And with you lot getting the Saudis in now, listen, man, everybody get your thobes, get your chamises, get everything ready, man. Shake outfits, St. James's Park.
It's
already started.
Yeah. we had fans outside St. James's Park. You probably saw on Sky Sports News. They were partying. There
sheets and details everywhere.
They were dressed up and proper.
And you'll get a lot of naysayers, like people will be like, "Oh, why are they taking over? It's wrong how they're doing it, or whatever." But it's like, yo, no one had an issue when PSG were doing it. No one had an issue when City was doing it. No one had an issue with Chelsea was doing it. So it's like, and we've seen, even with like a lot of the Chinese owners, nobody knows what their background is a lot of the time. So it's like, I don't know, man. That people all of a sudden want to pick and choose which owners they want to kind of get after for me. And it's like, it's funny to see how it all kind of plays out. But for me, I think it's kind of well overdue for Newcastle, to be honest. I think they're a club that have been thirsting for some kind of success, and the way Mike Ashley has kind of neglected that club, I feel like it's similar to kind of Levy under us, Kroenke under Arsenal, you could say. It's just some ownerships, even when you don't support the club, you can just see, that's not a pretty situation. So it's I'm sure you lot are all dancing in the rain, man.
Well, I'm a lot more sober this week than I was last week, I can tell you. Just to go back to Andrew's point there, he says obviously Spurs at some point, we know that Levy tried to get PIF to buy Spurs. The price apparently was around 3 billion. But now Levy says PIF will damage the brand. Obviously, the Premier League. Obviously, we know, I think yesterday or Tuesday or Wednesday, the Premier League, the other 19 clubs in the Premier League had a secret meeting with Richard Masters to have Masters explain to him why the deal had gone through, which is funny considering, 6 of the top clubs, no disrespect for out, but including Spurs, wanted to break away to the ASL and damage the Premier League completely for the other 14. So I suppose as a Newcastle fan, we find it quite hypocritical in that, we're being criticised from everybody from, journalists to, Amnesty International and everybody else. But, from our perspective, we're just fans that wanted the end of a really bad tenure of ownership. We didn't choose PIF. You would obviously want it from a point of, it's going to bring wealth and as some people have said, we might still be second bottom, but this time last week we still had well, not this time, but on the Thursday, this day last week, we still had Ashley and Steve Bruce, and that tenure, 7 days on. Okay, Steve Bruce is still there, but now we're the richest club in the world. But I mean, those things happen in life. Yeah, we will enjoy it, I'm sure. But it's nice. Can I just say, in fairness to Fouad, I applaud that because there has been an absolute heap of bitterness and everything else, and I have seen a lot of positive. But to hear another fan come on that his Spurs ownership in particular have been very, very noisy and upset about this takeover at Newcastle. I listen, I applaud you, mate, for being honest and upfront with us and giving us that view on it. So thanks for that.
And that's the funny thing, though. But I like that you hit the Super League point as well, because it just goes to show like the hypocritical sense of it. Like everybody wants to pick and choose who's allowed in the exclusive clubs, and because we've kind of now open up the top 4 to the top 6. Nobody's allowed in the top 6. Oh, Leicester's starting to break into the top 6. We need to make it a top 7, and no one else can break into the top 7. It's like, nah. If you're falling down and losing your power, come down. Just like Nottingham Forest had to, just like Aston Villa had to. It happens throughout history. Clubs aren't always successful throughout the decades. If it's not your decade, take your seat. Arsenal, you've been 10th place or whatever. You cannot complain. Spurs, same situation. Like we all tried to break away to a separate league, and every fan was fuming about it. So for me now, all of a sudden, for every fan to get on side with their board to be like, yeah, I don't agree with the takeover. It's like, nah, you're all just falling into the kind of the PR BS.
It happens. No, this is the thing. This is football. You look at the Premier League from when it first started. You look at the teams that were up there challenging. You had your Forests up there. You had your Ipswich one season back in the 90s. You had your Newcastles up there, in mid-90s, and then the early 2000s. We were finishing 4th, 3rd. We were finishing above Chelsea and Liverpool. They were getting Europa League football, on the back of that. And then Tottenham come into it. We drop out. Tottenham come into it. They become the top. And then City come out of nowhere. Chelsea were on the periphery. Chelsea were one game away from potentially getting bankrupt back in 2003. They needed that win against Liverpool when Gronkiar scored to basically save their club. And now look at them. Now that they're chasing leagues, they're paying 80, 90 million for a striker. They're paying big money. It happens. These phases happen in football. You've seen Man United over the last 10 years of how they've dropped off after Sir Alex Ferguson. It has to be allowed to change. And I think this is what not just Newcastle fans, but football fans about the European Super League have been so frustrated about, is that they were trying to take away that natural transition of the clubs and stopping other clubs being that. There's no reason why that you may, for example, sell off Harry Kane next summer, and with that money invest in 2 or 3 players that transforms your team, and then you stop challenging again off the back of that. But they were trying to stop that from happening. And they're trying to stop someone like Leicester coming up, or Everton having a good start to the season. Look at Brighton in their start. Who's to say they can't carry on? It's like
it's almost like they want to make it an exclusive boys club kind of thing. And what I'd ask you both here is, how long do you think it would take for Newcastle to go from where it is now to become one of those clubs, or not even to be winning the Premier League, I'm saying, but just to be in and amongst the mix of competing for Champions League regularly, like almost like the Sir Bobby Robson days?
Great question. Mark, do you want to go?
We were talking about this prior to coming on air, and obviously, for the last 2-3 years, in particular, the last 18 months, while this takeover thing has been going on, and I think to take your point about the exclusive boys club, I think you're 100% right. A lot of people over the last 18 months have been calling Newcastle fans deluded. They're deluded. Takeover's not going to happen. They're a small club. All this other shite that we put up with. And we've always maintained the same thing, especially on our channel. All we want is the opportunity to compete. That's all we want. We just want to be given a fair chance. Now, listen, you get the Saudis. It's like all your Christmas is coming at once. We're not going to lie. But for me, if we're up there within the next 3 to 5 years and we're challenging, listen, man, if we even got to a Carabao Cup final, I would be happy as fuck. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm again, we were chatting prior. Like, I'm 51. Other than the championship, I've seen 2 Wembley finals against Arsenal and Man United. I've seen us lose twice. So for me, I would love to be able to see us win something, but I enjoyed the Keegan days. I enjoyed the glory days, the beating Man U 5-0, beating Barcelona in the Champions League. So for me, just to get those days back, I'm not necessarily saying I want to win everything, but just to be able to bring that back and give us a modicum of not looking over our shoulder at the start of the season going, oh, okay, we go again. That's all I want. So 3 years. Now, the thing for me is, knowing the Saudis and knowing that they've got the club that they wanted, I still think kind of come January, I think they'll invest heavily. I think they will. I think they'll make a marquee signing, be it whoever it is, because that's just them. They wanted to come into the Premier League with the white horse, the big flags, and everything else. So I would find it hard to sit back and believe and think that they're not going to massively invest. I think they have to. I mean, Fuad, you made a really good point. Squad is shite. We got to do something. If we don't invest, we're going to be in trouble. And it would absolutely be the Newcastle thing to have massive investors and then get bloody relegated. That would be so us. So yeah, for me, 3 to 5 years, it's a journey. I'm not looking for it overnight, but just get me back to days that I can enjoy. That's all I want.
Yeah. I have to agree. Look, I've said it so many times with all the speculation about this takeover. First things first, the one thing I wanted to do is not have to worry about where I'm getting my 40 points from every season. The one thing that we do as Newcastle fans when the fixtures come out in June is that we look at where are we going to get our points? Where have we got a Palace and a Burnley together in the fixtures where we might get 6 points that might save our season or get us up the table? Like I'm looking forward to the days where we don't have to worry about that. But as Martin's just said, and as you said before, our squad's not good enough. It just isn't. And we're going to need some heavy investment. I think we'll spend close at least 100 million, and that's not even including a couple of loans. I think we'll get a couple of loans in as well. I think we'll get between 4 and 6 players, and we'll ship a few players out, the likes of Dwight Gale, Kieran Clark, 1 or 2 others will get moved on that are not really in the team. But in terms of where I think we'll be hitting the top 4, I think we'll be in and around the top 4 in 3 years' time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we'll be in and around the top 4.
Do you worry that because, like you're saying, you have to kind of splash the cash in January, that teams try and almost take advantage of that when it comes to you wanting to buy their players? So let's say, for example, you want to come to Spurs now, buy Dele Alli, we're saying 55 million. Yeah. And PIF are like, all right, cool, we'll put that down. You have no qualms about that.
Well,
no.
Because for me, I think the one thing I always say is like with City, I think Chelsea's takeover, how it was done was like a 1-of-1 because it was one of the very early kind of foreign takeovers.
Yeah, oil money coming in.
Came in, blew the cash, and it was like, and back then you didn't really need to kind of, I don't know, he did it over 2-3 years, but they did it well and very quick. City, I think, did it over more like 4 or 5 years where they kind of became a seriously. Because let's not forget the Taksin Shinawatra takeover as well that went wrong. That kind of gave them a little stepping stone to build on next. And then when the kind of big Emirates money came in, they took the next step. I think with the Saudis now, I just hope that doesn't happen. I hope they watch the City model, because what City did very early on was get the director of football in. I'm hearing you lot are linked with Lucas Campos, like someone who's going to dictate the vision and direction and work closely with a manager, whether that be Steve Bruce or not. I'm hearing he could be gone by the end of the week. But yeah, I just hope that it's not just a kind of come in, throw money at it situation, because that would just be, I think, a bomb site waiting to happen, basically.
Well, you know what? I don't. Yeah, sorry, Pete. I don't think they're the kind of. I mean, you know, we were saying prior to coming on air, you know, these are serious business people. PIF, you know, Staveley's, the Rubens. These are serious business people who I think, and you know, we'll come on to Steve Bruce shortly. You know, and the game on Sunday itself. These are educated people who will take their time to make the right appointments, the right decisions. You know, if Steve Bruce is in the dugout on Sunday, is it going to piss on my rain parade for the weekend? No, it's not, because Ashley's gone. And so, you know, the Bruce situation will change. But I think you're right, for the thing for me, when I look back at the City thing, and we were talking about this on Loaded Mag on Friday, they bought Robinho. He was the first signing when the Arabs took over in Man City when their money came in, and Qatar.
Just quickly, do you remember they tried to sign Kaká as well, and he didn't go for it? He was like, I'm not. So I feel like sometimes when you're the new money club as well, it takes some convincing to get those big star players. But
they got Robinho, but then what they did, because of where City was they started to buy up Premier League experience, and they steadied the ship with, I think it was Mark Hughes, was it, when they got their takeover? It was Mark Hughes. So Mark Hughes was still there. They didn't change out the manager as much as City were not doing great results wise. They got Robinho, a couple of others. They put Marwood in as director of football, if I remember rightly, from their takeover, and they started to grow. So over 2-3 seasons, then they got to the De Bruyne's, Sterling, Aguero. I think you'll see this Newcastle consortium will very much take that same line of action. I think you'll see a director of football. I think you'll see Bruce hang on for a little while, maybe an interim manager. Then you'll see director of football. Then you'll see a new manager. Then you'll see maybe one big marquee signing. A lot of talk around Coutinho. I'd be delighted with that. I think he would be great for us. Mine and Pete's view will be we need a really good centre half. If we could get a really good centre half, I would be more happy with that than I would be Coutinho. But I think that's absolutely the track they'll take on that side of it. I think.
I'll give you Davinson Sanchez for 20 million.
No chance. No chance. No, because
just for you, special price, just for you, my friend. Just for you.
We've already been linked with the first make of David Sanchez, and that's Eric Bailly, who are just both exactly the same type of player. So
Yerry Mina, Bailly, they're all off the same breed. Yeah,
I don't want any of them. The one I've always said is, if we're going to make a statement signing and we need a centre back, for me, there's no better signing for me than getting John Stones right now, who's at Man City, that's not playing, that's not in their squad. That if we went, right, here's 50 million, here's 55 million, you know what, actually take 60 million, we want him because he's 25, 26. You can build that team around him for the next 7 or 8 seasons, and you've got him there. We've also been linked with Koulibaly. I don't think we'll get him in January, but I know he wants out of Napoli. He'd be one that I'd look at in the summer and pairing them together. That would be the way that I build. But you made a really good point in terms of throwing money out there, and you're absolutely right. I think in this country, I think we'd be in a position where we would throw money out there in terms of spending a lot more. For example, we've been linked with James Tarkowski, who I do think will sign in January. His contract's out in the summer, so he'll go in January, I think, if people come up with the right fee. Now, if it was anybody else, they'd probably say, you know what, between 12 and 15 million, he's yours. But you know what's going to happen in January? They're going to say, you know what, I want 25 million. In fact,
minimum.
Yeah, minimum, and we'll probably negotiate, and it'll be a 20 million deal with bonuses and achievements of an extra 5 to 7 million, and that's unfortunately that's how it's going to be. But the one thing that I'll say is that I think we need to box smart, and there are clubs out there at the moment, and it probably falls in our favour that there are clubs out there at the moment that are financially struggling. And when they're financially struggling, they can't just demand big wages big transfer fees. So, for example, you've got the likes of Barcelona that Martin said, with the likes of Coutinho and one or two of Samuel Umtiti, who they want rid of. I know he's got his injury problems, but they're players that you could get on a really cheap deal. Maybe pay him a big wage, but get him on a cheap deal. There are one or two at Real Madrid. For me, Luka Jovic is a striker that I would get instantly, because he's a big player. He's not being given a chance at Real Madrid. He's not even getting in like the cup games. He's barely getting a run out. But you know he's a player.
Yeah, I think they loaned him back to Frankfurt or something like that. Yeah,
he's actually loaned back there.
I think he's loaned back there. Let me have a look. One sec.
Again, he
would be available in the summer, because obviously it's only a loan deal.
That's the bracket type of player that I would be looking at. I also mentioned Renato Sanchez at Lille, who's doing bits, and he's a proper midfielder. He had his rough patch at Swansea, but he's a proper player. And they're the type of guys that I'd go for. And if you can go on the continent and get those sort of players, you've got Inter Milan that are financially struggling. You've got Skriniar at the back, who I'd just try and say, look, you guys are struggling.
Skriniar for years, man.
Exactly. But if you know you've got the money, if you've got 50 million, you're saying to Inter, like 50 million's here in January, we want him. We've got a manager that's got a project here. We've got a club that's going places. He might want to come, and then that's going to put pressure on Inter to say, you know what, we might have to let him go. And there's clubs out there that are struggling that you could really take advantage of and put a little bit of money out there, and they're going to want it because they're struggling. So I think if we box smart with it, and these owners have already seen, they didn't make any snap decisions on Bruce. They're taking their time. They're evaluating everything in the club. It shows me that there's some positives there, and they are looking in the right direction. So it fills me with a little bit of hope that actually we've got someone for a change at the top that are going to make the right decisions for the club. And look, if they do spend 100, 120, 130 million, we've had so many seasons where we've been in the profit, when we've been bagging 130 million just for being in the league and then being in profit by the end of the transfer window. We've had so many years of that it's about time that we went out and just splashed a little bit of money, but getting the right players in. So, I'm all for it, depending on who they sign and how. But a great question, Frad. But I know I'm cautious of the time, and I think it's now time to look at the fixture, get some predictions, and more importantly, get some stats. Which means there's only one man for the job when it comes to stats, and we'll bring him in now.
Evening, lads.
Evening, Keith. Welcome in.
Welcome, lads. Nice to meet you, Ford.
Nice to meet you, man.
Can everybody hear me a little bit better? It's the first time I'm trying this new headset.
We can hear you.
Sound much better. Normally, it's like you're in a broom cupboard. Yeah, well done.
It's great to have you on, Keith. Thank you for popping on. And look,
no worries.
When we're looking at all of our fixtures coming up, there's no better person than yourselves to come in to throw some stats our way. So before we get into who are the danger men for both teams in predictions, throw some stats our way between Newcastle and Tottenham. What are we looking at potentially this
sure. A fixture I've always looked forward to, Tottenham. I've always enjoyed watching Tottenham over the years, particularly in the 90s and the 2000s, back in the days of Klinsmann, players like that. They've played each other quite a few times in cups and in the league. I mean, looking back to 93, 94, they've played each other 58 times, and it's quite even, Stevens. Newcastle have won 25, drawn 9, and lost 24, so it's quite even there. And there's always lots of goals in this fixture, 185, 89 to Newcastle and 86 to Tottenham. Newcastle's record at St James's Park, won 15 and drawn 6 and lost 9, compared to White Hart Lane, fairly similar. Won 10, drawn 3 and lost 15, although it has to be said the record at St James's Park in recent years is quite poor for Newcastle. I think they've only won once since 2012, and Tottenham have won about 5, and Newcastle have got a better record at White Hart Lane. They've actually won 4 times in that time since, so it's quite an unusual record, but absolutely it's weird. But Harry Kane, I think touched on earlier there, Ford, top scorer in this fixture in recent years, 8 goals in 13 games. So he's already a danger man there already. Believe it or not, the last time there was a 0-0, a goalless draw in this fixture, you have to go back to 1971 when Supermac was playing. So quite a long way back there, certainly. Steve Bruce's managerial record. I know we've still got to talk about Steve Bruce against Spurs. Managed 26 games, won 4, drawn 8, lost 14, so it's 0.77, less than a point a game average against Spurs.
Oh.
Sorry to bring
all
it down.
right. So what you're saying is there's hope, Stato. There's hope.
And the likelihood is the last game was a 2-2, it was a draw. So maybe on that say it's a bounce. But I brought this stat in as well. A big money takeover stat. So the two big money takeovers I'm thinking of were obviously Chelsea and Liverpool and Man City. The first game back after the big money takeover for Chelsea, they went to Anfield and won 2-1 in 2003 after the Abramovich deal. Whereas Man City, they played Chelsea at home at the Etihad and they lost 3-1 after the Sheikh Mansour deal in 2018. I also wanted to add as well, guys, Newcastle are in the bottom three at the moment. But when Man City were in that first season in 2008-9, I think by about the 18th game, they were in the bottom three. They dropped into the bottom three. I think they lost a few games like the Wigan. They had some really strange results that year. They were winning one game and lost the second game. I think it wasn't until like the transfer window in January until they picked up and got themselves to mid-table for that year. So it's going to be interesting, certainly getting to the halfway point and then getting to the January window for Newcastle.
Thanks as always, Keith. And you're absolutely right. You know, it's the takeovers come at a weird time, but it's only 7 games in. The only thing I would say is that those 7 games were winnable games. Apart from the trip to Old Trafford that we actually played well at, I was there. Other than that, we've had teams, West Ham, Villa, Watford, Wolves. We've had teams
shocking results.
Should have picked up points against. So, and you look at our run now. We've got Tottenham, we've got Chelsea coming up, Palace who are playing well at the moment. Got them away. We've got teams that.
Pete, I'm feeling like Deontay Wilder here. You're just hitting us with all these combinations. I'm going to drop in a minute.
Yeah, it's slightly worrying, but I'm hoping that, and what Phil had mentioned earlier, that sort of new owner bounce, shall we say, kind of gets us through. But the stats are there. What do you guys think about the stats, Phil? What do you think about those stats?
Listen, that was a lot thrown at me, but I'll be honest with you. The way I see it, there's only one man and one stat I heard that really mattered. Harry Kane, brother, this is your moment. Please wake up. Please. This is the only thing I ask for out of this fixture. Just some Kane goals. That's it. I'm not even expecting a win. I'll take just some Kane goals.
Martin, what do you think about those stats? Were you surprised at any?
Yeah, no, do you know what it is? I kind of knew it was fairly even. And as we said before, there's kind of always goals. I'm hoping for the new club, kind of the new ownership bounce. I think the stadium will be buzzing either way. I just hope if we do, I'm not even going to talk about Kane because I think his legs are gone and shot. So I don't want to annoy Fawad, but I think if we go a goal down, I'll be interested just to see what happens with the atmosphere because war flags are back. St. James's should be bouncing. The new consortium, including His Excellency Al Rumnian, are going to be in the ground. He flew in there today, was picked up at the airport. So. Everybody's going to be there. So again, the typical Newcastle thing to do is we'll get fucking trolleyed. But hopefully the atmosphere stays well. But I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. There you go.
Wow. Okay. Fawad, if you had a prediction, what are you thinking for the game Sunday?
I'd probably go for a 1-1 draw, to be honest. I'd think 2-2 because I think I can hear 2-2 because I think both teams are kind of defensively got lapses in them, so it could lean towards that. But I think 1-1. Honestly, I don't know why. I just don't ever fancy us against Newcastle. Like, especially over the last couple of years, the way Callum Wilson got his jammy last-minute penalty, was it last year? I couldn't believe that was given. The 2-2, it was just, there's so many kind of moments. But yeah, I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay. Keith, what are you thinking for Sunday? What's your prediction?
It's worth pointing out as well. The one stat I missed off was that Joe Linton scored in his last 2 seasons against Spurs as well.
Scored the first one in the 2-2, didn't he?
Yeah, the 2-2, and then obviously he got that winner down at the Tottenham Hotspur winner stadium as well.
I'll tell you what, if Chris was on here, he'd be saying, "Get your money on Joe Linton on Sunday."
I know, yeah. What are the odds?
For sure. But look, I think that new owner bounce is gonna bounce our way on Sunday. It has to. At some point, the rubber.
We have to break the duck at some point.
It has to go our way.
0 for 7. So, he's gonna.
Yeah.
Brucey's 1,000th game. Just go out on a win and then fuck off.
You know what, Mark? It sounds laughable, but actually, that would be typical Bruce, because the amount of luck that Bruce has had over in the last 18 months. Yeah. It would not surprise me if he gets his win on Sunday in front of the new owners, and then he kind of rides off into the sunset. He's got his 1,000th club management game. He's got his last game as a win for Newcastle. He gets sacked. He moves on. He'll probably get another job elsewhere and get them relegated, whatever league they're in. And we get our manager and we move on from that. So I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle, purely because Callum Wilson's back. And Callum Wilson's back. He's been training for the last 2 weeks. He looks sharp in the clips that I've seen. And he's a difference. He takes the pressure off ASM. We've got a frontline forward striker. And I think with the right service, in the way we've been playing in attacking areas, Willock's been training his back. Almiron's been flying recently. I just think that we being at home and with that bounce, I think we can really trouble Tottenham, and obviously we've talked about Tottenham's defence being a little bit leaky, to say the least. So I'm hoping and praying that we're going to get that win.
That's a lot of fitness. It concerns you're kind of relying on coming back and hoping new man. All I will say is, in Spurs' favour though, is we pretty much have our fully fit 11 now. So Nuno kind of does have no excuse. And I think the game against Villa was kind of a nice confidence booster to sign off after those kind of 3 calamity results. So I'm hoping, as I said, they could have used this kind of international break as a reset, kind of come back, use this next part of the season to kickstart it. But as you said, we'll see, man. We'll see if this new owner bounce really kicks in. Where
I hope so. But look, just to finish it off with yourself, Brad, what if you were to say, from both points of view, start with Tottenham first, the 3 players for us as Newcastle fans to look out for? Obviously, Harry Kane may be one of them. Who are the top 3 that we need to look out for on Sunday that are going to be your danger men?
I think undoubtedly Son. The form he's in this season since signing the new contract, he's kind of taken the mantle where Kane's obviously decided to rest. He said, all right, put the whole team on my back, kind of thing. So he's really pulled through with a lot of the results, to be honest. He's one to watch out for. And Reguilon, I would say, is slept on as well. I think his delivery is something that adds an extra layer of creativity and attack to our game. And I think it's kind of gone missing towards the back end of the season. But against Aston Villa, I saw kind of return of it. I think it was probably his best game, even defensively, in months, I would have said. So I'm really hoping he's one that kind of uses this as an opportunity to kickstart his season as well. But yeah, Reguilon and Son would be the other 2 outside of Kane, of course. And then Romero is one as well. Don't sleep on. I think he's found his kind of fitness coming back in now. As you said, Callum Wilson coming back in. He's been thrown into the kind of fiery deep end with this. So we'll see how he handles this. You know what I mean? Callum Wilson ain't easy. We'll say that. He's a complete forward. He's a handful. He knows how to kind of pull a man out wide, get in behind, come feet. You want to get into a tussle, we can do it. So Romero loves all that as well. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup between the 2 of them for sure.
Definitely, and Wilson's already scored a few goals this season already. I know he's playing the last couple of games before he actually got injured with this thigh injury, which is why he's been out sort of 5 weeks. So hopefully he's fitting good in for us. But you've mentioned Callum Wilson as one of the strikers. Who would you say the other 2 main guys that you're worried about from a Newcastle point of view?
Undoubtedly ASM. And I think the man who turns into Lord Voldemort in this fixture, John Joe Shelby, if he plays, I think he's in this fixture. Anytime I've seen him play, he does a little bit of something. So yeah, if he does play, but actually changed my mind. Jacob Murphy.
Oh, okay.
I think Jacob Murphy. I think his end product, even though it's inconsistent at times, when he does have them games where he's up for it, he can be a proper problem. And I think I can't remember if it was the 2-2 where he absolutely cooked Reguilon, I think it was. So yeah, he's one I would throw in as well.
He's got lightning pace, Jacob Murphy. He's got lightning pace. He has improved on his final ball. You are right, but it's just the fact that we've been playing him pretty much right back or right wing back that you don't really get to see that end product as much as we would like.
Both him and Richie are limited with that.
That's the problem, and that we've asked the question as fans. Why is Lewis not getting a spot when Liverpool were after him a couple of years ago and we got him for 13 million, and when we need a left back, we're going with a left winger playing left back than actually the left back himself. And as a 23, 24-year-old, you must be asking the question, why is that not happening? But Mark, is there anyone that we've not said from a Tottenham and a Newcastle point of view that you think are gonna be the danger going into Sunday's game?
No. No, do you know what it is? I know he doesn't get that many mentions, but I always think Harry Winks looks okay. So he could be an odd one that could pop up.
Rad's not sure about that.
Yeah,
I don't know about that
for
one.
me, listen, I hope Kane, finds form after this game. With all respect to forward, I hope it's not at St James's. I think the standout player for me is last couple, probably 2-3 seasons outside of Kane has been Son. I think he's an amazing player. His solo goal last season, I think, was absolutely amazing. And if we were to make a major signing, some format of a player like him for Newcastle, I would love to see. So yeah, so I think Son is the major danger player for me. But look, again, game brings goals. So yeah, look, may the best team win. Obviously Newcastle and not Spurs. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. Looking forward to it.
No, great stuff. Right, I'll just throw mine out very, very quickly. But just before that, Keith, is there anyone that stands out for you that we've not already said?
I think just to echo Mark, what Martin's just said there about Son, really. I've got to say that as a neutral, going back to about 2017-18, probably my favourite player as a neutral in the Premier League. Particularly when Kane was out for that period before they got to the Champions League final. Absolute joy to watch, like in the Champions League, where everything he seemed to shoot at seemed to just fly in. And he's always been a player that as a neutral I enjoy watching. So I always enjoy watching him when he's not playing against Newcastle. So.
Yeah, he's always someone who I think has always stepped up when any time Kane has had injuries. We always call it like the annual monthly injury. He gets it every year for 1 month, whether it's his ankles, his knees, something. Son is always there to carry the mantle. We never ever feel, and that's what always causes the kind of debates amongst Spurs fans where, is Son our most important player or is it Kane? And really and truly just appreciate both, man.
No, the one player I throw out there, and I don't know if he'll start, but I think he should on Sunday. I hope he doesn't. It's this guy, Brian Gill. I saw him come on when you got beat at the Emirates against Arsenal, and I remember looking and thinking, having a double take, thinking, who's this player? Because he was
great player.
He was getting around, he was pressing high, he was winning the ball, he was creating, making things happen. I was thinking, like for 10-minute spell, you look dangerous at that point. I'm thinking, why is he not started? So for me, he's a player that I'm looking at, and if he starts, I'll be looking at him really, really closely from a Tottenham point of view. And then for me, from a Newcastle point of view, I think this guy's going to come up and show his business on Sunday. Not a lot's been talking about Joe Willock. He knows where the goal is. He can find the goal. I think he's just finding his fitness. Just before the international break, he was getting that back. I know he got injured against Wolves, but I think it was more of an impact injury than anything else. But I do honestly believe that we're going to start seeing the best of Willock now. Now that Wilson and ASM are back, and I think attacking wise, he could really sort of begin to make the difference. But
and he loves scoring against London teams. To be fair,
yeah.
That's true.
Scored the equaliser last year.
Yeah, exactly. Love scoring against Spurs. Yeah. So yeah,
And it was that, and that for me was the reason. That's the reason why I think he'll be the danger man, because he's the one. You know, we've talked about ASM, Callum Wilson. They're the guys that everyone talks about, but that's where Willett just comes in. You know, nobody pays him too much of attention, and he can come in late, arrive late in the box, cause some damage. With the fans up as well, bouncing, it could be something that could be really, really a really kind of big talking point in the game. But we'll see. But look, we'll end it there. Fuad, absolutely spot on tonight. Thank you for coming on and sharing your time with us. Keith, as always, thank you for coming on and throwing stats our way. Just before I finish, thank you to everybody. 1,000 subscribers we made it on Monday. For a channel that's been going, Loaded Mag's only been going, what, five months or so. To get 1,000 subscribers and rising already, it's a massive, massive achievement. So thank you for everyone in the chat, everyone that's been supporting us. We'll continue to build, continue to bring out that content that you guys want, and try and be a little bit different compared to all the other Newcastle pods that are out there. Letting you guys know, tomorrow we are back for another Loaded Mag. Join me and the boys, me, Martin, and the rest of the lads. We're talking about the fixture in a little bit more detail, and obviously talking about, you know, Steve Bruce, and they've had his presser by then, so we'll be dissecting all of that, ready for the big reveal on Sunday. So plenty more coming our way. But guys, thank you again. We'll be back next week, but fingers crossed we get our first win. I knew when I said that.
I was like, no, it's not happening.
No play for us. We get our first win. Fuad wants that win at St James's Park that they've been getting the last few years. Let's wait and see. But guys, thank you all. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Thanks.